is BBC World News. I'm Sheikh Augustus.
And I'm Lamarcus Jones. Our story today, child mortality.
Starting in 1985, 17 million children died before their 5th birthday every year.
As we progress through technology, better healthcare has led to the decline of the child mortality rates.
However, child mortality is still an immense problem today because of the lack of cooperation from the NBC.
About 6 million children will die this year. It's a smaller number compared to that in 1985, but statistics are still extremely high in numbers. About 17,000 children still die every day.
Child mortality rate is the highest in low-income countries such as most countries in Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. Children in Botswana or Burma are dying as we speak, and countries like the US are doing nothing about it.
Children in Sub-Saharan Africa are over 16 times more likely to die before the age of 5 in these core countries.
Only 7 per 1,000 children die every year before their birthdays in the US versus Angola, where 164 children per 1,000 die every year.
Over 10% of the population of children die in these developing countries.
The leading causes of child death include diseases such as pneumonia, malnutrition, poor sanitation, and death before birth.
The deaths of these children will lead to unprecedented consequences both economically and socially.
We will be interviewing Professor Josh from the University of Chicago State about child mortality right after this commercial break. Welcome to BBC World News. This is a brief interview with Dr. Josh, PhD from the University of Chicago State.
Welcome, Dr. Josh. As an expert in human geography, what are your opinions on the problem of child mortality?
Child mortality stands as one of the most critical issues for our modern world. As one of the UN Millennium Development Goals, child mortality is defined as the death of infants and children under the age of 5.
Why should the UN prioritize this issue over others, such as poverty and diseases?
Well, you see, child mortality touches on all global issues, including poverty, hunger, lack of education, and diseases. If we can solve this issue, solutions for solving all other problems will be definitely revealed to us.
Thank you, Josh, for coming in.
Thank you.
Oh, you didn't shake my hand! Oh, I'm so done!
Welcome back to BBC World News. This is an exclusive interview with Professor Lee from UC Davis's Agricultural Science. Hello, Professor Lee. We've just conducted a study about child mortality, and what are your findings?
Well, in Sub-Saharan Africa, kids aren't getting enough water to drink. The average human is supposed to drink about 8 cups of water per day. In Angola, kids are drinking about an eighth of what they're supposed to be drinking.
So why do the children in Angola have such little access to water compared to the US?
Well, the kids in Africa have so little access to the water because they don't have the right technology to clean out they're in water, there'd be dangerous microorganisms and sometimes human feces, and they just don't have the technology or like a clean sewage system to actually drink clean, safe water.
So is this issue an issue about sanitation or an issue about development in general?
Well, the parameters that cause child mortality, such as lack of water, lack of food, and lack of shelter, these necessities are caused by the undevelopment of an unstable government of the countries. These are both consequences from colonialism when the Europeans took control Africa.
So why would colonialism cause such a disastrous outcome?
Well, once the Europeans left, the borders and the tribes were all exposed to each other. This led to a lot of conflict, which in turn left no opportunity for actual development. As a result of this, many countries are basically car wrecks, and that's how children in these regions today have little to no access to basic necessities.
So we're just talking about Sub-Saharan Africa, but what about all the other countries in Southern Asia, for example?
Well, in Southern Asia, there was also a negative impact from historical colonialism. English and Spanish colonialism gave the same effects of what they actually did in Sub-Saharan Africa. And most of these countries are actually south of the Brent Line, and these are the peripheral countries with respect to the core periphery model.
If all these children are dying, then what are the local impacts of their death?
Well, from these children dying, they'll lead to social and economic undevelopment of the region. Further, they're gonna add to the child mortality rates in the region. They're just gonna keep growing. The economy in the local area won't develop, and socially, the population will not develop at all with all these dead children lying everywhere. If we can put an end to this child mortality now and raise awareness, we can end this ruthless cycle.
Thank you for coming, Professor.
I'm glad to shake.
Oh, you didn't shake my hand.
We will be interviewing Professor Edward from El Camino Community College about child mortality right after this commercial break. We will now be interviewing Professor Edward on his insights on solutions for child mortality.
I believe that the first step to solving child mortality is to raise awareness about child mortality. This can be accomplished through sponsors and global organizations.
Right now, we're at the step where most international groups are taking action, such as the Red Cross and the UN. But what could be done just from simple awareness?
The next step is to assist developing countries that have internal issues, such as a rebel group or a tyrannical government. By doing this, we are able to have stable democratic governments, thus benefiting all of the people.
Building democratic governments may change political power, but how could that benefit the people in terms of daily necessities?
With a new, stable, and democratic government, the next step should be to develop new services. Sanitation, accessibility to resources, and quality of life in general will improve.
Speaking of quality of life, wouldn't medical care also be crucial for minimizing child mortality?
Medical care is a crucial factor to reduce child mortality. Without it, children can't have any cures to sicknesses or diseases, which in turn would kill. If there is an increased amount of medical care in a country with high child mortality rates, they would essentially drop. Medical care is directly affecting the child mortality rates. If this new government can properly function, it can provide cheap and affordable medical care.
What last benefits can a healthy government provide a society with high child mortality rates?
Well, a stable government can provide more than the basic necessities for life, such as food or water. A government could provide a basic education for children, which in turn would lead to a reduced mortality rate.
How would adding schools into the landscape in turn reduce child mortality rates?
Schools are universal places where people can be educated for higher level jobs. By preparing developing countries with higher level jobs, development will ultimately increase, and the ultimate result will decrease the child mortality rate.
Thank you for coming, Professor.
I'm glad to.
This concludes our story today. As you can see, child mortality is an immense problem in our society.
Thank you for tuning in to this very special edition of BBC World News. Until next time.
Really?
Welcome back to BB. Okay. Agricultural science? Not okay. This is exactly what we're talking about, Congress. Alright.
2 lines based an hour.
I was gonna say services.
Think about something really sad.
Infant mortality.
No, I don't really care about that. I don't really care. Okay,
Alright.
1, 2.
No, wait, don't do that. It gives me pressure not to laugh. Start whenever. Oh my.
Every time you talk, it makes me laugh.